everyone, it's Jay the Nerd here. Make sure you hit the subscribe button down below to get all the nerdy content you'll ever need every Wednesday and Saturday. Now today, we're going to be talking about my top 10 favorite video games. Last week I talked about my top 10 favorite anime, and this week I wanted to talk about my top 10 favorite video games, and my hair is doing something crazy right now. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 favorite video games. Now I'm going to do like I did last time and start from 10 to 1. Now, just because it's 10th doesn't mean that I don't love it. I love all of these games, and honestly my list could be like top 20 because there's like 20 games I love at least. But today's just going to be top 10 because if I made a top 20 I would never stop talking. So, number 10 is Oxen. Now, I played this game, I think, literally right when it came out. I saw my favorite Let's Players, Geek Remix, playing it, and I was like, I literally watched like 10 minutes of the Let's Play, and I paused it, and I'm like, no, this looks amazing. I have to go play it myself, and then watch them play it, and I loved every minute of it. It's basically kind of like it's like a science fiction horror story. Basically, you play as Alex, and her and some friends and her new stepbrother go to Edward's Island, which is this tiny little island, and they're going to this like all-night party that's like famous, I think for like juniors or seniors or something to go to. Basically, you know, you sneak onto this island and you party all night, but only a few people have gone this year because I guess the weekend before a bunch of people went to a party and got grounded, and so it's only this tiny group of people that were able to go. So they're stuck on this island, and some weird ghosty stuff happens with radio frequencies and all this stuff that is really complicated, and I'm not going to try and explain it because it's better if you don't know. But it's really good. The art style is kind of like watercolor painted, a lot of the environments. It's really beautiful. The soundtrack is and it has a perfect like mystery sci-fi horror vibe. Nothing is like jump scare scary. It's just kind of like eerie and creepy, and you don't know what's going on, which just makes it even better when you find out at the end what's going on. And they just announced that there's going to be a second one that's coming out this year, and I'm gonna die. I'm so excited. Okay. Number 9 is Night in the Woods, which I was bored one night. I think it was 2017. I was bored one night in my apartment in college, and I was looking at Steam trying to find a game that I could play because I didn't have my consoles with me on my apartment at school. I just had my laptop, and I saw this trailer for Night in the Woods, and I instantly was like, oh my god, I have to play this. And it was literally everything. It was everything. I loved it so much. Basically, you play as this anthropomorphic cat named May, and she lives in this world of other anthropomorphic animals, and I think it's definitely symbolism, and that we're just seeing them as animals because it's a way for us to feel more comfortable with the sensitive topics if they're being portrayed as cute animals, because in the game itself they never mention being animals, having fur, having tails, having ears. They are in relationships and have crushes on people that look like other animals, and they never mention that you can't have cross-species relationships. So I think that it's just a visual for us to see them as animals, like a cute artistic decision, and they're not actually even anthropomorphic animals. We're just seeing them that way. That's how I've interpreted it. But anyways, May is she's 20 or 21, I can't remember exactly, but she's coming home because she just dropped out of college for some like mental health reasons basically, and it was really relatable to me because of my mental health problems, and now realizing because I'm autistic and I have ADHD and you know, anxiety, all these different things, made getting through school really difficult for me, and I dropped out of college multiple times. I eventually graduated a couple of, almost now 3 years ago, and I'm in grad school now, but it was very hard for me. And so I related a lot to May's struggle a lot. And it was basically her coming back to this small town where people feel stuck, and that also is relatable to me because I come from a small town where no one ever leaves and everyone feels stuck. And it was just really relatable to me, and it really hit home. Basically, she's coming home, she's seeing all of her friends and how they've all moved on with their lives and are doing things with their lives, and she's just kind of stuck and doesn't know what she wants to do. And then this whole weird mystery happens where they find this severed arm in the middle of the road, and it kind of jumpstarts this whole crazy mystery that also kind of ties to her anxiety. And it's just a beautiful game. The soundtrack's great, everything's great, the characters are great, and you can have different encounters, and the game can be different every time based on which friends you decide to hang out with on which day. The ending and the story itself is the same, but some of the friend relationships will be different based on who you hang out with on specific days. And I just love it so much. And it also kind of has a cute, spooky vibe like Oxen. Number 8 is Rise of the Tomb Raider. Now, I freaking love the newest Tomb Raider prequel trilogy. It's what got me into Tomb Raider. And Rise of the Tomb Raider, out of all of those 3 games, is definitely my favorite. The first one was really fun and great too, but the second one takes the great stuff from the first one and really improves upon it, like graphics wise, combat wise. Some of the deaths are a little less horrifying looking. It was one of the most famous parts of the first in the prequel trilogy is how all the horrifying ways Lara could die. And there's still horrifying ways in Rise of the Tomb Raider, but they tone it down a little bit on the gore. And it's just an incredible game. Most of it's set in a snowy area, and if you know me, you know that I freaking love snow in video games. And it's just an incredibly fun, exciting game. I love the Tomb Raider games. I love climbing stuff and fighting, and it's just amazing. I freaking love it. And the tombs are really cool. There's this one with this like pirate ship like encased in ice, and I'll never forget it. I love. I'll never forget fighting that giant bear and running away from it and shooting it with poison arrows. Like, I will never forget that game. It is so much fun. The only thing I will say is that the final boss fight is fucking annoying as shit. But other than that, I love it so much. And I really want to replay all the Tomb Raider games now. But number 7 is the Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, I played the original Final Fantasy VII and the remake. I played the remake first and then went back and played Final Fantasy VII Original because I wanted to know how it ended, because the Final Fantasy VII Remake right now is only part 1, and it only covers the first, like, 1/7 of the original game because they padded out with some extra stuff. They make a lot of the journey part of it between locations a million times longer. They flesh out all of the characters a lot more, and obviously graphics wise and everything is better. But I love the Final Fantasy VII Remake so much, and I cannot wait for part 2. I can't wait for the Yuffie DLC that's coming out in June, and the PS5 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake coming out in June. I cannot wait. I love it so much. Cloud Strife is fucking everything. I love him. I love Aerith. They actually made Aerith like a really genuinely amazing, likable character in the remake, and I freaking love that game so much. It is so much fun. I highly suggest, if you love JRPGs, to play it. And then number 6 is God of War 2018. Now, God of War, if you would have asked me a year ago if I would have played God of War 2018, I would have said, are you insane? That game is way too difficult for me. No. But in this last year, being stuck at home all the freaking time because of the pandemic, I decided, you know what? There are all these games that I've never played because I was too scared to play them, because I let my anxiety get in the way, and I let the stuff about my brain that is different stop me from doing things. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to do that anymore. And so I decided to play God of War 2018. And that game is fucking hard. And I did it by myself. I beat that final boss by myself. No help from my fiance whatsoever. And I, to this day, count it as one of my greatest accomplishments that I finished that game by myself. And that might seem silly, ooh, you finished a video game by yourself. But God of War was a game to me that seemed so incredibly difficult for my brain and the way it is, that I thought I would never be able to play a game like that. And I did it by myself. I did it. And maybe that's part of the reason why it's in my top 10, but you know what? Probably not, because it's in my top 10 because the story is amazing and the gameplay is amazing. The way throwing that axe feels, ooh, ooh. It's an amazing game, and I highly suggest everyone play it. It is so much fun. The story is great, the characters are great, the environment is beautiful, and I just love it. And number 5 is Portal 2. Now, Portal 2 is pretty much the game that made me into the intense gamer that I am now. I've always played video games my whole life. Pokemon, Mario, all that stuff. Tons of computer games. But Portal 2, which came out 10 years ago, is what made me realize the powerful impact that video games could have narratively. I always thought of video games as just a silly, fun little way of entertaining, and I never knew how powerful narratively and how much it can impact you until I played Portal 2, and that story broke me, and I cried, and I freaking loved every minute of that game, and I've played it numerous times since, and it means literally everything to me. And it means everything to me, and I want everyone to play it. And I'm looking at my Portal 2 poster right now that I've had for 10 years, and my little plushie of the companion cube that I've had for 10 years, and I will never stop loving that game, and it'll never stop being in my top 10. It means literally everything to me. I still think that GLaDOS is the greatest video game villain of all time, and that her, like, redemption arc is the best thing I've ever seen. And I'm really bad at puzzle games, but I somehow love the puzzles in that game, and it's everything to me. And number 4 is another game that means everything to me and will always be in my top 10, and that is Life is Strange. Now, if you would have asked me a year ago, Life is Strange would be number 1, but it's not anymore, and that's because when Life is Strange was my number 1, it was when I was too scared to play gameplay heavy games, and then most of the games I played were pretty much narrative choice based games, except, like Portal 2 and Mario and Pokemon and all that. And it was all because of letting my anxiety and the stuff that makes my brain different, like I said, getting in the way of me trying games that require more skill. And not to say that Life is Strange is not still an amazing game. I think that it is. It's number 4, obviously. I think it is a beautiful game, even if it doesn't require a lot of gameplay skill. But that's the reason why it was number 1 and it is now number 4. But Life is Strange means everything to me. It was there for me. I've said in another video recently, because of the, I think it was the 5 or 6 year anniversary of Life is Strange coming out, that it was there for me in a really tough time in my life, going through a divorce and suddenly having to move back home and all this shit. It was something, the episodes were something that I could look forward to, and that game was there for me when I needed it most. And Max is me, and Chloe is still one of my numero uno video game crushes, and I love that game so much still. But number 3 is 13 Sentinels, which is another game that I played in this last year that I don't know if I would have played a year ago. And that's because it's like a tactical, strategy game, gameplay-wise, and then it's definitely very narrative heavy. It's separated into 3 different parts. There's the tactical fighting part, the narrative part, and the analyzing these, mystery files part of the game. And while the tactical fighting part is probably my least favorite part, it is still really fun, and I still was able to do it because I allowed myself to play games that require more skill. But it is an amazing sci-fi story, and I love science fiction so much. One of my favorite animes is a science fiction anime named Steins Gate. I love the way that Japan does science fiction, and 13 Sentinels is a Japanese, JRPG tactical strategy kind of game. So it's right up my alley, and I just love the way that Japan does science fiction. I don't know what it is about them, but they do it so well in a way that I just resonate with. And 13 Sentinels is amazing. I love all of the 13 characters that you get to play as, both in the tactical strategy part of it and the narrative part of it, and I love every minute of it. It's so good, and the art style is beautiful, and I love it so much, and I want more people to play it. And number 2 is Kingdom Hearts 2, and this is a funny one because for years I made fun of Rick, my fiance, for loving Kingdom Hearts because I said this story makes no sense, it is ridiculous. I even have a 2-part thing on our podcast, Nerdily Ever After, go listen, where he explains the plot of Kingdom Hearts to me, and I just laugh because it sounds so ridiculous. But one day, again, because of this quarantine, I was freaking bored, and I thought, Rick owns the entire Kingdom Hearts collection. And I decided to pop in Kingdom Hearts 1. And I was like, oh no, I really like this. Oh no. And then I played every single game in a span of like a month. Oh no. And I realized, wait, this story is really complicated, but when you play it yourself, it makes so much more sense. When you play all of the games, it makes so much more sense. Now, it is still a ridiculous plot full of some unnecessary details. But when you play it yourself and you play it in these pieces together, it makes a lot more sense and you love it. And honestly, the complicated plot is not why I love these games. I love these games because of the characters, and I'm really attached to the characters. I mentioned in my anime video that becoming attached to characters is why I end up loving something. And I'm obsessed with these characters and I love them to death. And Kingdom Hearts 2 is definitely, without a doubt, the best one in the series. Narratively, it gets really dark. And I love that. Like the contrast between these Disney worlds and this really dark story. And there's this battle in Kingdom Hearts 2 that sticks with me as one of the greatest video game battles of all time, the Thousand Heartless battle. I will never forget it, ever, how that battle makes me feel. And yeah, it's my second favorite. And number 1 is Persona 5 Royal slash Persona 5 Strikers. I'm putting them into one because they are essentially, they are connected. Persona 5 Strikers is essentially like a sequel to Persona 5 Royal, and they really connect together. And, what can I say about Persona 5 that I haven't said in other videos? I love Persona 5 more than anything in this entire world. Again, it's something that I played during this quarantine, and it was there for me, and I've played Persona 5 Royal almost 3 times now. I'm, like, in the middle or 3/4 of the way through my 3rd playthrough of Persona 5 Royal. I've played Persona 5 Strikers twice now, and I'm working on a 3rd playthrough for my mom because she doesn't play video games, but she loves Persona 5 because of the anime and stuff. So I've been playing that for her, and I love it so much. Every character in the Phantom Thieves is incredible. I love Akechi with my entire heart. He's my #1 favorite video game villain. That's why I said GLaDOS almost is my #1 video game villain, but Akechi is numero uno. Love Akechi with all of my heart. I love him so much. I love Persona 5 so much. I love every single character. That's one of the things that makes it so special is, and why I love JRPGs, because JRPGs, just like, animes, do such this beautiful job at crafting their characters and making you love the whole crew together. It's why a lot of my favorite animes are ones with the friends as family idea, because somehow Japan just freaking gets it that story and way of doing characters so well that no one else can do. And so I love animes and video games where the whole friends as family aspect is a part of it, and Persona 5 does that better than anyone. The Phantom Thieves are friends as family, and they love each other, and I love them all so much, and I feel like they're my friends, and I can't say enough about Persona 5 Royal and Persona 5 Strikers. I love them all so much. I just freaking love them, and they're precious to me. And the gameplay, never thought I would love turn-based gameplay like in Persona 5 Royal, but it's beautifully crafted and I love it. And then I love the different kind of gameplay in Persona 5 Strikers. I love everything about Persona 5. I love it so much. It's everything to me, and I can't see anything ever topping it in my number one. I rambled on a lot, but that's my top 10 favorite video games, and I will see you on Saturday. Bye.